Good morning, my nichelings. Welcome back to another trade recap. I'm extremely excited and happy about today because we hit a nice banger trade. We had a beautiful setup present itself, beautiful trade. Everything went perfectly. It was awesome. We ended up making $2,144.42 across 4 separate accounts. Beautiful day. Literally, like, such an amazing trade. Like, this is the kind of thing, like, these days are like when I literally just like am extremely happy, not because of the amount of money that I made. Like, I didn't make that much money, right? You guys know I've made a lot more money on multiple other days, right? But a day like this just makes me so happy because it was such a clean and perfect trade, right? And that's the mindset, dropping sauce. That's the mindset that you guys have to get into. The mindset that it doesn't matter about the money. It's not about how much money you're making. It's about the quality of the setups and the kinds of setups that you're truly taking, right? That's what you need to flip your mindset to. Instead of thinking about, well, I made this much money today, this much money, right? It's all about the setups. What setups presented themselves? What setups played out? How beautiful was the setup, right? In a day like today, even though I didn't make that much money, right? Like, I wasn't even close to a 5-figure day, but beautiful. So much more happy on a day like today than a day where I make $13,000 or something like that, right? Even though I've only made $2,000, right? I'm extremely happy just because of the quality of the setup. Anyways, let's get into it. So, obviously, yesterday, you guys know the whole Trump situation. Dude was just being an idiot. What is this? Dude was just being an idiot, right? Talking. Apparently, whatever he said about us like trying to what's the word, like, you know be nice again or something like that. I don't remember. I don't know what the word is, bro. Okay, sorry. I'm not in the mood. Anyways, whatever, right? He's trying to reconcile. That's like the word, basically. He's trying to reconcile with Iran, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I guess he was just trolling. Somebody said he was just trolling. Like, Iran said that they never even heard from him, whatever. So he was just trolling. Anyways, we made this giant move up, had this fucking fat ass imbalance, this 4 hour right here, right? And as you can see, we are inside of it prior to market open. However, right, this is a really big imbalance. Here's the thing, okay? With an imbalance like this, with how large it is, there's a really, really, really good chance that we want to fill that imbalance to its 50%, right? With something that's this large, with a candlestick that is, the body of the candlestick is 700 points, right? That's a pretty large candle. From the wicks, it's probably over 1,000. Almost right at 1,000, right? With something like that, we need to fill that imbalance pretty heavily before going back up, right? So, like, for example, other imbalances, like, we don't really need to fill them all the way. Like, I don't know if I can get an example here. But a lot of the times you'll see that, we kind of just wick into the imbalance and then, kind of go back up like this, right? Right here. Like, we barely tap into this imbalance and then continue back down, right? Because it's not a fucking giant candlestick, right? This is just a massive candlestick, massive imbalance. We need to fill it pretty heavily, or at least the way that I trade, the way that I see the markets, we need to fill it heavily before continuing in whichever direction that we want to go, hopefully bullish, right? Obviously, we are long-term bullish. We want to be long-term bullish. Anyways, what ends up happening? Well, this 4 hour gap is one of our conditions, right? We also have this hourly gap that we had inversed, right? So now we're thinking, okay, we're probably going up. But what ends up happening is we actually come down and strongly inverse this hourly gap, right? And start to push down. So now you're thinking, okay, we're probably headed for these lows right here. So this was actually my draw on liquidity today. So I texted the Discord, the exclusive Discord. If you guys want to join, link in bio. And I said, hey, like, I'm going to be bearish probably down until this 4 hour imbalance. Then from there, I'm down to take longs after that, right? So whatever happens, we can either long or short, right? If we get an entry down to the 4 hour, boom, I'm taking that. If we don't, then we can take an entry out of the 4 hour gap going back up, right? Because I'm expecting us to then push back up now off of this 4 hour gap, right? So anyways, that is my condition. That is what I wanted to see coming into the market, right? So anyways, what ended up happening? Well, market opens right here. We end up coming up and manipulating into this 15-minute this 15-minute FVG, right? Obviously, you can see right here, boom, 15-minute, this high right here. We ended up putting in an SMT From here to here, as you can see, from here to here, ES did not end up taking out that high. So there's confluence technically number 1 and 2, right? Manipulation into a 15-minute gap, SMT at that high, right? This is setting up perfectly for a Judas swing, right? Off of market open. I love that. That is honestly my favorite play. I love the Judas swing play. It is so beautiful, okay? Anyways, what else did we get here? Obviously, right, this SMT right here, as well as with this high up here. So technically, right, even if we did, yeah, I mean, we still have an SMT. Anyways, we got this internal SMT, right, from this high right here up to this high right here. As you can see on ES, that thing is way up there, right? So internal SMT, candlestick SMT, external SMT, whatever you want to call it, right? We had it, right? We also had a 5-minute gap lined up with this 15-minute gap. And we also had a 30-minute gap lined up with this 15-minute gap, right? Literally everything that you need. Only thing that would have been better is if this was an hourly gap. That's literally it, right? We had our external SMT, our internal SMT, our candlestick SMT, right? Everything was beautiful. Everything was lining up, shaping up perfectly for a Judas swing play off of market open, right? Anyways, what did we end up getting? So there was a 30-second IFEG up here. I don't fucking pay for the 30-second because I don't think it's worth it, honestly. There's just not a lot of times that I will take the 30-second where I actually need it. This probably would have been one of those times, unfortunately, to just get a better RR, but I'm targeting 1-to-1s anyways. So at this point, I don't really care, right? So anyways, what did we end up doing? Well, there's no 1 minute, whatchamacallits here, right? There's no 1 minutes. There did end up being a 2-minute that formed, right? But talked to my good buddy Zed Trades a couple days ago, right? We're talking about displacement candles for entries. It's the Zed Trades displacement candle, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's what he enters off of. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this, right? So we had this candle that pushed down. I was like, all right, yeah, that's pretty decent, right? That's a nice displacement. Then we had this candle that pushed down. That looked really good. I really liked that. So what did I do after this candle closed? I set a limit order here at a 1-to-1 just to where I could get a 1-to-1 risk reward with my stops above this high. Literally because that's all I needed, right? I just wanted a 1-to-1 protected stops and then being able to target this gap down here. Ended up getting my order filled right here. And then boom, beautiful. So also there was this 2-minute and you could have done the same thing with the 1-to-1 and entered off of this, but obviously I did not, right? I just basically went off displacement. I knew that there was a 30-second IFEG here. I didn't have it. I didn't really care. I knew that it was there. This trade was so fucking beautiful that regardless of your entry, it literally could not have mattered what trade you took. That's how good it was. That's literally how good the trade was. It was so beautiful. So beautiful. This is an A+ setup, no doubt in my mind, every single day of the week, twice on Sundays, twice on Saturdays. Okay. This trade is so good. There's literally zero complaints about this. Now, there is one thing that went in the opposite direction, right? And we did have at the time an SMT with this low down to here, right? So at the time, we had taken out this low right here on ES, as you can see right here, boom to boom. We had taken that out, right? And somebody was telling me, you know, I faded the setup because we had that bullish SMT. Like, why did you take it, right? This is what I'll tell you. There is never going to be a trade that is absolutely perfect, right? There's never going to be a trade that has every single confluence going in your direction, right? There is always going to be something, some little thing that's going in the opposite direction, right? Something that's going to be turning you off from the trade. Something that's probably going to be in the back of your mind saying, maybe should I not take this trade? Is this really a good trade? Blah, 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 right? And it's literally all about judging probabilities. It all comes down to judging probabilities, right? Realistically, judging this trade, judging the probability of this trade, because at the end of the day, that's all that we're doing. We're judging our probabilities, right? So is this bullish SMT right here going to outweigh everything else that we have in this trade? Is it going to outweigh a reaction off of a 30-minute, a 15-minute, and a 5-minute gap? Is it going to outweigh an external and an internal SMT? Is it going to outweigh a 2-minute IFVG with displacement? Is it going to outweigh that we have draws on liquidity lower, right? If it's not going to outweigh any of those things, then take the trade. Okay, so that's all it is. You just have to determine your probabilities and weigh your two, is this trade going to go in my favor or is it not? What's going with me? What's going against me? That's literally all that it's about, right? It's all about just determining probability. So with that being said, that's the trade from today. Absolutely beautiful. Like, this was insane. Beautiful trade. Entered off displacement with a limit set at a 1-to-1. What you also could have done, I saw a lot of people set limits at this 2-minute right here to try and get a better entry, and they unfortunately did not get filled. What you could have done is the same thing off of this 2-minute inverse. Just set a limit order at a 1-to-1. I do that sometimes too. You don't want to be greedy. There's no point. Set it at a 1-to-1. Come back, boom, hit that, bang, right? That just allows you to actually enter the trade, but also not be greedy at the same time, right? And this trade was valid as long as we didn't sweep out our break-even point, which off that 2-minute inverse we did not, and we ended up pushing up first before going back down. So this trade was extremely valid if you wanted to set a limit order just at a 1-to-1 to try and actually enter the trade to secure some sort of profits. But with that being said, that is the trade from today. Absolute banger. Let me read the P&L again. $2,144.42. Banger of a day. Banger of a trade. Love it. Like it. Need it. That being said, I'll catch you boys tomorrow if I take a trade. If I don't take a trade, you won't see me. And be ready for that gold strat dropping tonight. Gold strat, baby. Peace out.